Hey, my name is Jonathan Helm, and in this video I'll show you how to read a .csv file into R. So I needed to create a new video this week because there were some changes in a previous Mac operating system. So the later videos in this playlist might not work for you, just because there's a newer operating system for Mac, and if you follow the same steps, they actually won't work anymore. So I'm going to create a new video to show how to read a CSV file that should work for any platform, for either Mac or PC. Okay, so I have the salary data set here on my desktop, and that's the data set that I've been working with so far. And what I want to be able to do is read those data into R. So if I double click the file, it should open up by default in Excel. And what we'll see is that we have a series of variables that we'd like to read into R. So I have salary for a series of professors or faculty at different universities, number of publications that they have, the number of years on the job, if they identify as male or female, different department categories, and so on. And so really the goal for this video is just to read this data set into R. Okay, so I'm going to close this out for just a second, and I'll go ahead and I'll open up R. Oops. Let's see here. R. So R opens up in the normal way, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm also going to create a new script that I can use. Now whenever we're reading a data set into R, there's a couple of pieces of information that we need to give to R. So R needs to know the name of the data file, right? So in this case, if I just move the console a little bit here, move this up so I can move the whole console down. Right, R is going to need to know the name of this file, which is salary_data.csv. But R also needs to know where this file is on my computer. And so inside of R, we can change what's called a working directory. So a working directory can just be thought of as a folder. So it's a folder somewhere on your computer, and you can set the working directory to be any folder on the computer. And then R will be able to read in files that are in that specific working directory. So right now, salary_data.csv is on the desktop, so I want to point my working directory toward the desktop, so that way R will have access to all the files that are in that folder. So if I go up to, looks like if I go up to miscellaneous, there'll be an option to change working directory. Okay, and so if I click that, a dialog box will open up that will let me select a different directory. So what you should do is just find the folder on your computer where the data are stored. So I'm just going to click desktop, right, because that's where my data are, and you can see the salary_data.csv file. Right, and once I have this desktop folder highlighted, I'm going to go ahead and click open. So if you're using a Mac or a PC, you don't want to click the actual file itself, you just want to click the folder that the data are in. Okay, so once you click that folder, you can click OK, click Open, and then R will reset the working directory to be pointing at that folder. Now one thing that you can do is you can use the list.files function to see all of the files that are available. So if I type list.files, and then I highlight this and I run this, you're going to get a series of files back that R can see. So since R is pointing to the desktop, it can see a couple of these, right? It says desktop stuff, which is this huge folder of crap that I need to get rid of. And it also sees the salary_data set, right, which is right here. Okay, so now it's pointing to the correct location. It's got the correct working directory. And so now what I need to do is read that file into R. So what I'll do is I'll use the read.csv function to read in CSV files, right? So read.csv is a function that's specifically designed to read in a .csv file. Okay, and what we'll put inside of that is the name of the file in quotes. So I'll do salary_data.csv. And so this is the exact name. So I put it inside single quotes or I put it inside double quotes, right? So if I start with a single quote on one side, I have to end with a single quote on the other side. If I start with a double quote on one side, then I have to end with a double quote on the other side. Either way is fine. It doesn't matter if you use a single or a double quote. You just, whichever one you start with, you also have to end with that one. So then I'm going to write data is equal to read.csv. And what this means is that the read.csv function is going to read the file salary underscore data.csv, and it's going to store that information, it's going to store that data into a new object called data that I've created. Okay, so I'm going to highlight and run this. So I highlight and run it. Okay, we don't get an error back, so it looks like everything's okay. And one thing that we can do is we can take a look at the first 6 rows. To see if the data were read in correctly. So I can use the head function, right? So the head function will always print the first 6 rows of a data set. And so I'll highlight and run that. And now you can see I have, I'm just going to expand this a little bit, and then I'll rerun that code. Right, so I see salary, number of pubs, years on the job, female, department, age, salary, too, and so on. And one thing that I should do is I should take a look at this salary data set. I'll double click it again. I'm going to zoom in just a second. And I can take a look at these different values. So I see the first one is 84,404.679. And if I look in R, 83,404.70. So like with some rounding, it looks like the data were read incorrectly. See 319.12, tick back over to R, and I see 319.1 and 2. So I feel fairly confident that the data were read correctly into R. Okay, so I'm just going to emphasize this a little bit. One of the reasons why this video is first is because the Mac options that I've used in the later videos no longer work, but what you don't have to do in the later videos is set the working directory. But I wanted to create this video because this should work regardless of the platform. So by setting that working directory first, right, changing the working directory, the only thing that I need to put in the read.csv function is the name of the file. And in the future videos, what I do is I end up putting in the whole directory, so it's kind of like a path to this file. And so if you don't end up setting the working directory up top here, then you have to go through that process. So you can watch those other videos if that's useful for you. Otherwise, you can just change the working directory to this location anytime you open up R. Right, and that's it.